Welcome all, it's Raymond from Stream Gamers. We're going to be doing a flight from PANC or Anchorage, Alaska to PACV, Merrill K. Mudhole Smith. It's the beginning of a series that's going to take us through a series of takeoff and departures and arrivals along the western coast in North America, mostly in Alaska, and our final destination will be Seattle. So that's the game plan. It's a series of videos that I'm intending to make. It's the series is actually going to be called Milk Run. This is known as the Milk Run, the series of airports that we're going to be landing and so forth. So we are in our United livery. Let us get inside the cockpit, and we're going to begin our process and setting up and doing what we've got to do to get ourselves ready. The first things we got to do is we've got to get our battery power turned on. We've got to have our emergency lights on. We'll turn our anti-collision light on. We'll turn our aft fuel pump on. We will start our APU. The APU will come up here and get around 8 or so, the EGT, and it'll come down to around 4 or so. We know that the APU is up and running and providing power when this light comes on. We have a low oil pressure light, which is normal as the thing begins to start. This light will go out, and like I say, once the APU is fully functional and up and running, we will have APU generators available to us in which we will turn those APU gens on. So we're just waiting for that to take place. I'll quickly discuss just a little bit about this here. We'll have our PACs initially set to auto and our isolation valve initially set to auto, and we will have our APU bleed turned on, which will provide cabin air. Right now we have 0, but we will get cabin air once the APU is fully lit and ready to go. So the blue light comes on. We'll turn our APU gens on. We now no longer rely on just battery power for running all of our systems. We will run all of our systems off the APU generator, in which case we will turn the APU bleed on, and we'll see the pressure gauge come up, giving us cabin pressure. And now F7 takes up to the upper view, at least on mine it does. We'll turn the alignment on of the IRS. Goes to white, goes to white. We go nav to nav, and we are set. Our displays have lit up, but they're not fully functional yet because there's a few more things that we'll need to do. Before we get to that, we'll go to FS Actions, we'll go to Fuel, and we're going to set our, what we have here is our zero fuel weight. That's a number that we need to identify and remember for later, because we're going to need that information. That is the fuel weight of the aircraft without fuel. So let's go back here. Let's go back again. Let's go to Setup. We're going to go to Aircraft. We're going to go to Equipment. And within Equipment, we're going to go to page 14. Pages are up here. There's page 14, cabin layout. I want single class, not both classes, first and single. So I want single class, or this will be economy. We're going to go back out. We're going to go back out. We're going to go back out. We're going to go into FS Actions. We're going to look at payload now. We're going to set our payload to 144 passengers. So we set our payload to 144 passengers. When we see our payload at 144 passengers, we can then see our zero fuel weight, which is 123.7, but it's in yellow. And my suspicions are it's because we have too much cargo for the amount of passengers that we have. So, for example, let's change this to let me back this up. Let's change this to 3,400. Let's change this to 3,400. And let's change this to 3,000. Now you notice that it is no longer in orange, it's actually in white, and it's 118.6. So that's the number we're going to need for later. That's our zero fuel weight. That's the passengers and its cargo, but not fuel. And that's in thousands, I believe it is. So anyways, let's back out of here. Let's go to fuel. Let's put our 16,500 pounds of fuel that we're going to have. It's a short trip, about 200 nautical miles, but I prefer to have more fuel than less. And keep in mind, it doesn't change the zero fuel weight number, because this is assuming passengers and cargo only, not fuel. Okay. So we got our fuel, we got our payload. Now we're going to look at taking. Oops, I do this every time. It's ground services. So on the outside of the aircraft, we've got our ramp truck, and we've got our chocks down there. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the ramp truck and the chocks by clicking on this. So we click on that. Yep, that removes it. So we're going to come down here and we're going to also set our park brake, which we probably should have done ahead of time. But we see the cabin door closed. We see the chocks are gone. The truck will be backing away in a minute. And there it goes. So that part's set. Now let's go back in here and we're going to see. Let's go to. Oh wait, I got to back out of this. I got to back out of this. I got to go FMC. I got to go position. So it wants us to align the IRS. So we're going to do that. We're going to click next page. We're going to select the left GPS. The right GPS is slightly different, I see, but basically the same. I always pick the left. Each to their own. We'll go forward again. Sorry, we'll go back again. And we'll put that in. That aligns the IRS, and you can see all the displays are now illuminated correctly and properly like they should be. Okay. So that takes care of that. Our reference airport, which is the airport in which we're at, is PANC. So let's put our reference airport. Oh, come on, those little ditty dotties there. We're not going to put a gate in. That's not terribly relevant for me. I almost never use gate. But we are going to put our origin in there, and we're going to put our destination, PACV. Destination. If we were using this, we could use this, and I'll explain this in another video, but basically this is if you were to use SimBrief, you could automatically populate all of this information in for yourself. We're using runway 25 right. 25. Where's the R? There's the R. So we're using runway 25 right. I'm going to turn on Hovercraft. So this is basically our flight that we intend to do. We intend to depart to runway 25 right, which is this one here. We're going to come out here. We're going to do a 360 turnaround, and we're going to start coming back and working our way back to the designated airport, to the destination airport. That's kind of what I meant to say. Anyways, let me make sure I turn that off. Okay. So that's it for this screen. Our next part is we're going to do our departure. So we set our departure, as I said, 25 right, and we're going to use the anchor 09, and we're going to activate that, and we're going to execute that. Now we've got that done. We're going to go back in, and we're going to do our arrival. Our arrival is ILS 27. We're going to use this format, and we're going to execute. Now we're going to go to the legs page, and we're going to go through the legs and figure out what we should or shouldn't be in here. We're basically looking to see, does it all look right? One thing is that we've got this vector in here. So what a vector actually is that we depart and then we communicate with ATC, and ATC will vector us, meaning they'll tell us how to climb, what altitude to be at, and what heading to be at to get to this right here. Okay. We could get rid of it by going here and dropping it over top and there. That now gets rid of it, and so now you see our departure taking off here, making that turn back out. Okay, and we have no other obstructions along the way. We do have, however, our, which I will show you as well, and we'll just kind of briefly talk about that. Let me switch this over here to Navigraph again. So we're going to come in here. We're going to do a 360-degree turn here. Sorry, a 180-degree turn, and I believe I said that wrong. This is 180-ish, not 360. But we're going to do a 180-degree turn in here, and then we're going to come in and we're going to start talking about that. Now we'll talk more about the details of the arrival when we're doing the arrival. So I wanted to put that out. So let me turn that off. Okay. So this part looks good. Our next function will be to go back into here. This is the screen where we need to have our zero fuel weight, which was 118.6. So we're going to set that 118.6. That's our zero fuel weight. Our cost index, I'm always putting 30 in here, but this cost index is more for about when you use the VNAV and allow basically the computer to control the thrust on takeoff and climb out and stuff like that. We're not going to use that. We won't be using VNAV for this flight. We'll only be using LNAV, and I'll do another flight later on that will actually kind of talk about this more in more depth, but for this flight we're not going to use it. Our cruise altitude is 21,000. We put 21,000 as 210. It puts it in as flight level 210, which is 21,000. Our transition altitude will be 18,000 feet, which we will then at that point turn the barometric pressure to standard. Right now our barometric pressure is this, but once we get above 18,000, in North America that barometric pressure standard is 18,000, and in Europe I believe it's 6,000. Those are the numbers that I've been either told or I've researched and come up with those numbers. If I'm wrong, then I'm wrong. It'd be welcome to have somebody tell me that constructively. That'll be fine. If we were to use this and have had imported that flight plan in through SimBrief, we would hit this request, and then this request would pull that data in. We'd hit load. A load button would illuminate here, and it would load. And it would put in all of this information. But for this flight, we won't do that. Our next, this will leave it the way it is. I don't understand this a great deal, so I always just kind of leave it at the way it is, set for climb, and whatever this means. Somebody wants to make a comment in the comment section to describe this a little bit better for me, that'd be perfect. Our takeoff, our flaps are going to be 5. Our GC, or center of gravity, is here. So you press on this and it tells you what it is. You can put that in. And there is, within SimBrief, you can collect all this data as well from an automated process. Our V speeds now are set. 137 is our V speed. So what we do is we go up here into our throttle here, or into our auto throttle thing here. Speed setup, that's what I'm trying to come up with. We go 10 knots above the 137, so basically 147. 147. We want to get our heading, and so we want to know what is the heading for runway 25 right, which is 254. So we'll change our heading to 254. There we go, 254. We're going to set our altitude to 21,000. Now, this may actually not be the right way to do it. I do it this way, but this may not be the right way to do it. I'm sure there's a transition. So ATC would tell you to climb out to this altitude and then hold that altitude, and then you could either request for a climb of altitude or a reduction of altitude, and eventually you would be requested to go up to your flight plan filed of 21,000. Now, if there was clouds at 21,000, or there was some obstruction, or if there was other aircraft, ATC may advise you to go to a different altitude, or you may decide that, hey, there's a lot of wind, I want to climb up higher or descend lower for various different reasons. But we're going to climb to 21,000. We're going to turn our flight directors on. We're going to put armor auto throttle ahead of time. May not necessarily be the right time to do it, but this is when I do it because I remember it. Okay, so now we're going to set our flaps to 5 because I've forgotten to do this a couple of times. And you need to have your flaps set for takeoff. In order for you to be able to push the throttle forward without an alarm. If you push the throttle forward and you don't have your flaps set, if you don't have your altitude set, when you push the throttle forward to start to taxi, you're going to get an annunciation and a warning for configuration for not being configured. So it's important to have your flap set. It's important to have your cruise altitude or your transition altitude, whichever you want, but it's important to have that configured and set. Right. I think that sets us up for everything else that we need at this point. Our next steps are going to be starting up and getting ready for taxi. So we turn on our pumps. We won't turn on center pumps because there's no fuel in center pumps. We only got 16,500 pounds of fuel on board, which means the center tanks have no fuel in them. They're all in the wing tanks. So we got that going. Before we start, we want to put our packs to off, and you'll notice that the air pressure in the cabin is coming down. We want to set isolation to the isolation valve to open, and you see the pressure's down, so the bulk of the pressure is going to go to the engines to turn them. So next we're going to come down here and we're going to start that engine. Let's go outside and have a quick peek at that. I'll show you how that works. You should start to see that engine turn. You see it's beginning to turn. Go back inside the cockpit. We'll watch this here and we'll wait for N2 to climb to 20. 20 it is. We're going to put fuel on it, and the fuel is going to eventually ignite. I'm going to take this off and remember to do this later because really I shouldn't be doing it. I don't have hydraulics for all of that, so technically I shouldn't, but I have to remember that I need to do that. Once the engines are started, this will turn to the off position, in which case we can begin the next start. But we will also turn on that generator because this is the engine we're starting, so we're going to turn on the right generator. That's come off. That means the right generator is available now to us, so we turn it on. We'll turn the left engine on, and we'll start to see it rotate. We'll look down here at the gauges and we'll see it climbing. It's at 10. Once again, it hits 20. We'll put the fuel on. Fuel is coming on. And once this turns to the off position, we'll then turn that generator on and we'll carry on. So now our next step is we want to set our cruise altitude air pressure, or cabin pressure, I should say. So our intentions are to cruise at 21,000. We want to have the cabin pressure accordingly. And we want to have our cabin pressure accordingly once we get to the runway, which is about 50 feet. So this should click off here in a second or two, I'm guessing. There it is, it's off. We'll turn that generator on. We're now going to turn off the APU. This is going to drop off to 0 eventually. It will take some time because from what I understand, this is a temperature thing, and so it's still going to be hot. Now, next thing we're going to do is we're going to put isolation to auto. We're going to put packs to auto, and we're going to identify that our pressure has now come back up again, and we have cabin pressure. So that then allows us to come up here and just determine heating, cooling, and so forth accordingly. So we can change our temperature and by cooling it and by heating it. I don't know if these controls are fully functional other than the dials to be turned, but I don't know if they truly impact these temperature gauges. I've never tried it, so I'm not going to this time. Given our time that we're flying this and the temperatures that are in the area, we're going to put our windscreen on. We do have clear skies, but we're still going to put it on. We're going to put our pitot heat on. We're not going to use anti-icing just yet. We're going to put our hydraulic pumps on. We're going to put yaw damper on. Now, if somebody has an explanation of yaw damper, feel free to make a comment in the comment section. I know I have to turn it on, but I actually don't understand its functionality as well as I maybe do with other ones. We're going to put our fasten seatbelt signs on. We're going to put our taxi light on. Logo is coming on. Wing lights are on. Wheel lights are on. And runway, I don't know if we'll use that yet. Okay, so the next thing we'll do is we'll put these to continuous. Continuous, the way I understand it, means that if you were to get a flame out, it would immediately try to continuously restart that engine so that it could come back online. I don't know if this is a mandate, if this is what pilots actually do. I just saw it on a video one time and I thought that seems prudent to have that on. Again, if it shouldn't be on, by all means, make a comment in the comment section and I will adjust further flight plans and I won't use that. Right, engines are up. Now, let's get our flaps on going. And we should actually start to see our flaps being deployed because our hydraulic pumps are on and I do see it coming. So that looks right. You can see here our flaps are being deployed. I think we are just about ready for taxi. Yeah. So what I want to do here is I want to go here. No, I want to go here. I want to go there. And I want to show you how I do a taxi. I don't know all of the taxiways at varying different airports and where I should turn and how should I turn. Somebody could tell me turn on K and Z and G and B and 4 and 7 and whatever numbers you want. I don't know where they are and they're hard for me to see the taxiways on those little signs. So what I do is I come here to our departure airport, I click on taxi, I click on this one right here, and I look at the airport diagram where we are, and so if I turn that on, it should illuminate and tell me where I am. There I am right there. I want to depart on this runway here, so ideally I want to taxi out like this and then come down this way and go all the way down here and then run this taxiway all the way down and get onto the runway. So that's what we're going to do. And the other thing I do is I move this around so I can kind of orientate it, the way I'm facing, because it's hard for me to figure out rights and lefts and so forth like that. So we'll turn this off so we don't forget that again. Next is our brakes off. Oops, brakes are off. Engines are running. We will commence to taxiing. So we push forward on the throttle just a little bit here, and we try to get some rolling. Ease back the throttle again, and we get our turn out here. Come on now, you can do it. There we go. Yeah, there we go. So down we go. We're taxiing along like mad, having a grand old time. Just up here, we're going to turn off right. We're going to transition ourselves to the actual taxiway shortly. We're probably cutting across things and probably shouldn't be doing it this way, but we're going to. All right. So, as I said before, this is going to be a series. I don't remember if I showed you the series it is, but we'll do that again. If you want to pause the video here and capture these waypoints, these are the various different airports that we plan to get to eventually to Seattle. So we'll go from here to here. That'll be like part 1, from here to here 2, part 2, from here to here 3, and so on and so on, and eventually we will get to our final destination, which is Seattle. I will, as I said, I will do varying different departures and arrivals. I hope to do a Cat 2, Cat 3 auto land. I hope to use some Airbuses along the way. I hope to use some bigger Boeing aircraft, such as 787 or 747s. I'm given to understand that Microsoft has commissioned, I think, Asobo. I could be wrong about that, but somebody has been commissioned by Microsoft to spruce up the 787 and the 747 aircrafts to become a little bit more study-like. Whether they'll be study-like or not, or whether they'll be at the same level as the PMDG, I somewhat doubt, but they're to get a bit of an overhaul, on it. So I'm happy about that, because if they are going to get closer to what the PMDG is, or the fly-by-wire A320 is, or even the A310 for that matter is, if they get to that level, I'll be happy to fly them and do some content videos with them as well. So we're just about to our final, to our next turn, I should say, not our final. We've got to make another turn. So we'll stop here and we'll wait for him to get going. We'll close that. We don't need that anymore. Flip this around, get that orientated right. See, he's taking off. That's good. So we'll roll up. Stop here, and we'll have a quick peek off that way. He's still lined up. Nobody incoming. We'll wait for him to get going. What we'll do is we'll get out of the cockpit so we can kind of watch him push off there and get going. And once he gets rolling, we'll gain the runway and come up behind him. Now we'll have to be careful because that 737-900 uses the same engines as the 737-700, and I'll have considerably more thrust than he'll actually have. So we'll have to be careful that we don't get too close to him. In which case, I think what I'll do is I'll let him get further down the runway before I even taxi on. I don't want to interfere with his flight. Don't like flying through people or taxiing through people. I don't care for that. All right, I think we are good enough to gain the runway. So let's do that. So on our takeoff, we're going to be enunciating various different steps and stages of the departure, and I'll kind of go through that. So we set our initial throttle, and once we get speed alive, which it is now, speed's alive, we're going to set our toga. So toga has been set. V1 rotate is there. I'm going to go just a bit further, 140, 150 and change. Pull up. Positive rate of climb. Gears going up. Now remember, we want to do a 180 turn back, so we're just going to wait till we get clear of the airport before we make that turn back. One notch of flaps is coming up. So we are clear of the airport now, so we will make our turn. We will try to control our turn to not get too much of an angle, banked angle on it, but we at the same time we still want to turn. I've made an unfortunate mistake. I'm going too fast. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to set that. There we go. It's coming out better. So that's on, and that's on. And the last stage of flaps is coming up. Over speeding a little bit, but that's okay. It's far from the biggest concern that I have. I didn't get my autopilot engaged properly, and so it just kept on speeding. It's neither here nor there. What I should have done is I should have set this, and then set your speed here, not your N1 speed, but your actual speed, and then it would have adhered to the requirements, which is set here. Because again, I'm only at 6,000 feet, and I was at 290, so it's reducing the speed, and once it reduces the speed to the predetermined speed, 246, it will begin its climb again, which is okay. I'm certainly going to clear off these mountains without issue, and that's all that matters. That's all that's really important. So now that I've reached my desired speed, it should start climbing. But it's not. Why aren't you climbing? Come on now, climb. It's climbing, but it's just not really climbing a whole lot. And I really wanted to actually stay at that 240. Oh, hang on. There we go. That should do it. Somehow that got turned off. Okay. So my flaps are up. I am having a bit of trouble, and this is typically not. This is not typical of, for me, for a departure. This thing usually does what it's supposed to do pretty consistently. I've obviously missed something, but it's neither here nor there. I will get a handle on it, and we will get it to climb. And if it won't climb, we will do one of these thingamabobbies here, and we'll just get it to climb. Yeah. Let's get you to climb at, well, let's do 2,300 feet per minute. Here comes the thrust up. And now we're climbing. Ideally, what should have happened there is hitting LNAV, hitting the, arming the auto throttle, hitting LNAV, having the auto throttle set at a predetermined speed. It should have throttled up to that determined speed, and it should have climbed to the given altitude of 21,000 feet. Why it didn't do it, I'm not sure, but yeah, that's what should have happened. Of course, we've now forgotten about our taxi lights, so let's turn them off. And once we hit 10,000, which we're just about there, once we hit our 10,000, we'll increase our speed to about 270, and we'll continue to climb out at our 21,000. There's our 10,000. Now we're on, looks like now we're on LNAV properly. Again, I'm not sure, did I inadvertently click on this? Maybe I did. I didn't intend to, but sorry, not this, but did I inadvertently click on the altitude hold? Maybe I did. I don't remember doing it. I hope I didn't do it, but it seems to be functioning the way it's supposed to now. We're beyond 10,000, so we're going to increase this to 270. That'll be our cruise speed. There's our cruise speed. Now, what we're trying to do is we're trying to get to 21,000 feet. Oops, 21,000 feet. This right here is considered our top of climb. And it looks like our top of climb is set that we're going to get to top of climb just past the prescribed top of climb. So there's a few things we could do something if we really wanted to. We could just manually, set our vertical speed and climb faster than our 25,000 feet per minute. But one of the things that I have to be aware of, and that is I didn't get the autopilot on, and we futzed around a little bit with this whole speed and climbing a little bit, so that kind of took us a little bit out. But it looks like it's still trying to get there, and it looks like it will achieve a top of climb before we get to top of climb, or it'll hit top of climb basically right at that. So top of climb and top of descent are two phrases you're going to hear me talk about. The top of climb basically means, this is for the new enthusiasts that maybe don't understand some of the terminology. So top of climb is just that. It means that we've reached our cruise altitude, in this case of 21,000 feet. That's top of climb. Top of descent means that at that position you should begin your descent for your initial approach to your destination airport. So you'll see this TC, which indicates top of climb, and you will see on your flight plan. Let me just zoom this out a couple more ticks. There. So you'll see TD, which is top of descent. So we click this, and it tells us we are basically 8.5 miles to top of climb, and we're pretty much right on the money. This little upside down smiley face, and or what is referred to as the banana, that green line there, that is, like as I say, where you should reach your desired configuration, your desired, in this case, your desired top of climb, and later on your top of descent. And I'll talk about that a little more once we get there, because top of descent is kind of a little bit about the opposite of this. Top of descent, I guess I'll talk about it a little bit now. Top of descent is really should be on standard barometric pressure. Top of descent is kind of, okay, if I start descending here at a prescribed descent rate, somewhere is 2.5 to 3 degrees. If I begin my descent at that point, I will reach my initial altitude, my cruise out, not my cruise, but my initial altitude, my initial approach altitude that I want to achieve. Then we will see a very similar thing with what is that banana or that green upside down smiley face thing. We'll see that, and it'll tell us, if we set our altitude for say 6,000, and we begin our descent, it'll tell us where we are going to hit our 6,000, at what point, at what stage of the game we're going to hit our 6,000. So I'm going to go through that process and explain that as we get further along. For right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to assume that everybody's going to want to fast forward beyond this stage, and going to want to see, the other part of it, not necessarily the scenery. So I'm going to catch you guys up just before top of descent, and we'll begin to talk about what are the steps necessary for top of descent and arrival, and initial approach, arrival, ILS, and that sort of stuff. So we'll go over all that once we get there. Unless there's something interesting along the way that I want to point out or discuss or talk about, I will catch you when we're just before top of descent. All right, then. We'll see you soon. So with video editing, your flight was considerably shorter than mine, but here we are. We are about, my guess is 27 nautical miles before top of descent, which is right there. We talked about how much fuel we're going to have on board. Remember, I put on 16,500. We still have a total of 13,400. So we haven't used a lot of fuel, but I really prefer to have a lot of fuel rather than a little bit of fuel. I was expecting we'd use more than this, but apparently I was wrong. With a little excessive on the fuel, but not crazy excessive. It's not like we're going to come in with 25,000 pounds of fuel or something like that. So we need to start configuring for our top of descent and our descending down and so forth, and getting ready for all of that. Now there's a few things we'll kind of go over. The first thing that we're going to talk about is we're going to turn on Navigaf charts, and here we're going to look at our arrival airport. We're going to look at our approach. Our approach is ILS 27. So we're going to look at our approach chart. Here's our approach chart. Our initial is 6,000 at Foxhole, down to 2,800 here, and down we come. Our ILS frequency is 110.7. So we're going to set that into our Nav1 radio. Again, I have a radio stack and autopilot panel. So I do that manually, or I do that here on my panel rather than dial it in here. But there's your nav frequency. Sorry, your ILS frequency. Should have said it that way. We want to find out what is our course, or what is the runway heading. In this case, we know the runway heading is 27 right here. So we will set 275 which is our course. Our next thing is, once we get this dialed into 275, which is going to take a bit of time, but I'm getting there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring the speed back on our auto throttle. That might be excessive. What I'm attempting to do here is to get the throttles down to closer to 0, so that when I begin my descent, I'm not, blasting along with full throttles and then pull them back. It's much easier to manage the speed if you idle them back and get it to come down to a slower rate of speed before you descend. Now, normally, if you were using VNAV, you wouldn't worry about this, because the aircraft's computer management system would manage your throttle based on your descent rate and where you should begin your descent and so forth and so on and so on. But because we're going to manage this stuff ourselves manually, and that's kind of what this flight is about, more of a manual type of flight. Other flights in the series will be more automated and various different levels of automation. All right, so we are 5 nautical miles out. So we're going to wait a little bit longer before we begin our descent. And we're going to descend. I'm given to believe that a descent rate of 2,500 is equal to approximately 3-degree descent rate. We won't descend at 2,500 because I don't think we're going to need that. I think we're going to have lots of room for descending. And so I think what we'll do is we'll probably descend around 1,900 feet per minute, and we'll kind of measure that to see, are we getting ourselves into trouble, or is our speed not being managed correctly? Do we need to descend faster as we get a little closer? We can critique that as we go. But our first descent will be to 6,000. So we'll dial in 6,000. There's our 6,000. We're going to begin our descent rate. It's really close to our descent rate right now. we passed it. Yeah, we've passed it. We better start descending. So let's do just that. Let's descend. And again, as I said, we're going to manually control this. So our speed is idled back. And here we come now, descending down to about 1900. Oh, we'll go 2000. Why not? Now you notice that our speed is increasing a little bit, so we can put some drag out, hopefully, which should slow that down. And the drag is the speed brake, first level of speed brake, which is right there. And I can see now it is kind of holding at our descent rate of about 2,000 feet per minute. As well, it's actually, we're actually still able to reduce our speed to get it closer to where we wanted to get to. So in the event that we needed to increase that descent rate slightly, we could. We won't right now, but if we did need to, we could. I think 2,000 feet per minute is probably going to be perfectly fine. Now, I did talk about, and I'm going to show this a little bit. So you can see, oops, that's maybe too far out. Right there. Okay, so you can see now our banana there. So that is telling us that we will reach 2,000 or 6,000 feet right here. Now, we actually want to reach 6,000 at FOXUL, which is after we make this turn, coming back here. That's where it is right there. So our next stop, 4RAT, which is out here somewheres. We make that turn and we come back, and we want to be at 6,000 here. So based on this, I can see that we're probably going to reach 6,000 before we need to. So what can we do about that? Well, there's a couple things we could do. We could reduce our descent rate. We could increase our speed. Either one of those would start to correct that. But we could, or what we could do is just simply not really worry about it too terribly much. We would, based on this, it looks like we would likely reach our 6,000 altitude, 6,000 feet. We would likely reach that about 10 miles before we should. So maybe that is something that is maybe a little too soon. So I'm going to do just that. I'm going to reduce our descent rate. It would then allow me to maybe take off speed brake. Right now you see the banana has kind of gone way up here, but that's okay, because remember, we're going this way and it assumes that it's going to reach here if we were to go straight, but we're not. At this point we're going to turn around and start coming back in. So it can't calculate that, I guess, is to say, hey, you know what, you will be here, right? But that's okay. This is our 2,800 feet, where we want to be 2,800 feet, this waypoint. We want to be 6,000 at this waypoint. So we'll let it come up this way, we'll let it circle around and come back and regain the flight path, which is this path right here. So it has to make this turn and then regain it and come back in along here. So we'll let it do that. Once we get a little further along and we're getting close to that 180 degree turn-ish, I'm going to reduce my speed. I want it to be able to hold this radius of turn, which is really sharp. It looks like on the surface, but it isn't as sharp as what it looks like. So we will, as we get closer to 4RAT, we're 20 nautical miles out, but as we get closer to that, maybe 5 or so out from that or something like that, what we'll probably do is we'll start to reduce our speed. I think we should deploy our speed brakes one more time, because we're gaining a little bit of speed here. Now we don't want to do that. We actually want to, if anything, we want to reduce our speed, and we want it to drop off. So we're going to let it drop off here a little bit. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably bring it down to about 210, I think. That's a good speed. Maybe 215. Let's go 215. Okay, so 215 is going to be our speed that we're going to make that turn out at. If I know I've done a video about this, but I'll briefly explain again why I'm doing this for those that don't fully understand this. If we're blasting around at 250 knots and we want to make this turn, the speed will make the turn a bigger radius, and it will make it harder for it to get back here to regain the line coming, or the profile going back in toward the runway. The slower you are, the tighter or the more it can hold that flight path. So that's the reason why I slow it down, because of that tight turn. If we were only turning, if we were only turning a 90-degree turn, I wouldn't worry about reducing the speed below, below that 240. It wouldn't matter to me, because I could easily make that turn, out, a 90-degree-ish turn. But a 180-degree turn, that's a significant turn to get this thing to spin around and head back the opposite direction in which it came from. So we'll let it keep on coming. 11 nautical miles. I've dialed the speed into 215. You can see it's working its way to the 215. We're still continuing our descent. I think our descent rate is still more than adequate. Let's take a quick little peek outside the cabin and let's have a look around. If I remember correctly, now I've done this flight a few times. I think I alluded to that earlier, but if I remember correctly, we kind of go over top of this little mountain range here and we make a turn and we come back. And it is for that reason we need to be 6,000 or above, if I remember correctly. So I should turn this up to something that is above 6,000, like that. So we'll kind of come here. Somebody's out here, we'll do that 180-degree turn and come back, because the airport that we're landing on is right there, over there somewhere. So we'll let it keep on coming along, chugging along. Yeah, I'm happy at that speed already. I think we'll be fine to make that turn. Now, for those that want to make a sharper turn, or they want to control the turn themselves a little bit more, you could get away from LNAV. You could go to heading hold here. You could take this dial. Right now it's set at 20-degree bank, but you could take this dial and turn it over to 30-degree bank. It would be a much more aggressive turn, and obviously if you had cargo, you may be willing to do that if it was cinched down good and proper. But people sitting in the back there with such a sharp, abrupt turn probably wouldn't be a good experience, and so you probably wouldn't want to have that sharp of a turn if you didn't have to. So I guess we turned before that. Somehow I had this in my head that we went over top of that mountain range, but it looks like we don't, so that's okay. I think at one time I did this. Oh, I think my previous, yes, that's what it was. My previous kind of came through here. It kind of came through here, right here, and then it turned like that. So I had kind of had to come over top of these mountains right here. That's right. Okay, very good. Anyways, returning, we're heading for 6,200 feet, and we're going to hold 6,200 feet once we achieve that. When we look at our turn out here, let me zoom that out a little bit more. It can't make this turn and bring it back on itself, and so what it does is it kind of gives you this half circle, but what it should do is it should hold the magenta line, and it should keep turning you, and you should get to here, and it should be at 6,000 feet, and when it gets there, here is the ILS. So we got the ILS, we've picked up the ILS, so in principle, or in theory right now, what we could do is we could hit our auto approach, and we could worry about flying the profile a whole lot less. That's what we'll do. We'll hit auto approach. So it's armed. And we won't worry about our altitude as much now, because once this diamond reaches the center point, it should trip off our altitude hold and trip the LNAV, and it should be able to hold a reasonably decent glide slope coming down to the runway, and we should be able to hold it. When you know you're holding a good, your glide slope is right, or when you're on a good trajectory, this diamond should stay in the center of that line. You should be somewhere in that area. We should right now be witnessing LNAV coming off here shortly. It isn't. Well, we're going to turn it off because we want this to begin descending. We're going to have to get a little aggressive with our descend here because we're a little high, as indicated right here. Still nothing really to panic about just yet, but we are a little high, and we're going to regain that. So we really need to start getting some speed bled off here. We're a little quick. I still think we're going to be okay. It is coming around. We still have our speed brakes out, which is what we need. Let's get our gear to come down because we're going to need that. That'll help us create a little more drag. There's the drag we needed. Another flap. And another flap. We want to come down to about 155. I think is what we'll do. We'll land at around 155. We have a bit of a tailwind. I think about a 6-knot tailwind. So because of our 6-knot tailwind, ideally we'd like to be maybe a little quicker. Normally I'd like to be around the 145, 150. But we'll be another 5 knots quicker. Should be fine. Drop another notch. We're coming along here. We're probably 25-degree flap right now, I believe. No, so we're 10. Take that back. Let's start getting some flaps down. 2,500. We're going to declare a go around should we have any problems right around the 1,000. If we don't have any problems beyond 1,000, we're going to continue. It is clear. I can see the runways, so there's no reason why we shouldn't have to. There's no reason why we should have to go around. Our configuration is good. Our speed is good. Our altitude is good. Our descent rate is good. So all of that seems to be pretty good, so I don't anticipate a go around. But if there is a go around, I will call it out, and we will do the go around, and we'll go over that go around procedure if we need to. I've got it up here. I know what we would do. We'd basically throttle up to 230-ish, and we would pull back up and get 6,000, and we'd come around. And then we would begin our lineup one more time. Let's get a little more speed bled off here, just a bit more. Yeah, just a tad more. I think somewhere in there is good. So soon we'll hear 1,000. We can quickly look here. We're pretty close to a profile. We're in pretty good shape. We know we're in good shape on the diamond, so that part's good. We're going to use speed brakes of 2. I'm going to disarm my, I'm going to arm my spoilers. And here we are. Soon we'll be soon we will be. Here's our 1,000. So we're gonna declare continue minimums, and we're going to declare to continue. So we're going to go keep on going. We can see there's 2 reds, 2 whites, which is a good thing. I will shortly disable. In fact, I'll do it. I think I'll do it now. Disable autopilot. Auto throttle is gone. We'll shut those alarms off because they are annoying. And now we will manually bring the aircraft in. I don't intend to. I won't redo this whole thing just because I have a bad landing. You will see the landing that I have, and it'll be as good or bad as it will be. Usually they're not bad, but I've been known to have some pretty horrendous ones. But I will not edit that out of the video. I like to show it the way it actually is. So we are a little high. You can see the lights are all white. I just wanted to clear those trees a bit more. So we'll throttle back.
100, 50, 30, 20, 10.
Retard. Take our reversers off. Start configuring the aircraft a little bit. And I think what we'll do here is we'll make a little turnaround, I think, here. That is actually not where we want to go, but we do want to go just up ahead there, so we'll that's what we'll do. That's the fuel box up there, and general aviation and all that good stuff. We are going to come up over here and taxi along the this aprons-like thing. It's not a taxi, but that's where we're going to go. So, turn our APU on. We'll get that started. The flaps are up. Our spoilers are returned or retracted. And it's been a relatively uneventful flight. We did have a little bit on the departure that was a little weird, a little goofy. I haven't quite settled on what that was about just yet. But it was obviously not the aircraft. It was definitely the pilot. I can assure you that it wasn't the aircraft. It was the pilot. I missed something and I didn't do something correctly. But it was neither here nor there. It wasn't really the end of the world. I have a caution warning. Why? Oh, that's because my APU is up. And so, park over here. We had a marshal, he would tell us where to stop, but we don't have a marshal, so we'll do that. Okay. So now we want to get our brake on. Let's now, because we got our APU running, we want to enable our APU gens. So they're on. We want to put bleed on, so we keep cabin pressure up. And then we want to shut the fuel off and idle, bring these engines off. I think you're supposed to idle them a little bit, but we won't do that in this case. They're on. We're going to turn off those fuel pumps. We're going to keep the aft on, which will allow us to have fuel for the APU. And we'll go into the to the menu window. We'll go into here and we will look at ground services. We'll put the chocks back into place. We don't need a power outlet, but we want the chocks back into place. Maintenance of ground, I don't think. Hydraulic, no. This is the area that I'm not sure about. I assume there's a way to call a ramp truck. That's the thing. Stairs right there. Would like to have some stairs. Stairs 1, stairs 2. What does this do if I go PAC's entry stairs? No, that's what I want. PAC's entry stairs, and I want to request it, looks like. So let's do that. Let's open up the cabin door. Back here, open doors, and we want to open the left entry door. There's our ramp truck coming in. There we go. So that that concludes the flight, and we will. Our next flight will be something else, but it will continue the series. I hope you have all gotten something out of this. If there's anything you feel that I've missed, or you feel that is necessary, is needed to discuss further, by all means feel free to let me know. If you think I should do things differently, I will, as long as they make sense. So yeah, that's the flight. I will say thank you for watching, and if you choose and feel up to it and want to subscribe and like and comment and all that, I would appreciate it. It's not required. I don't want to add pressure to you guys to do it, but if you do, I would appreciate, only so that I can understand content that is preferred as opposed to content that is not. I don't care about algorithms and YouTube's, what they think is important or not. I don't care. What I care about is creating content that people might enjoy or find informational. So, having said that, that's me, Raymond for Stream Gamers. I appreciate your time and watching it, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.